I've been with my company for quite some time now, about 6 years, give or take. Because of that, I've earned seniority over most of the other associates. I've also gone through far more training and hold more credentials than anyone else on the team. Recently, the company landed a new contract guarding a large government office building. The strange part was where it was located, almost in the middle of nowhere. I won't mention the exact location, but picture this: a massive 6-story building surrounded by an equally massive parking lot, itself enclosed by a 10-foot metal fence topped with barbed wire. There is only one entrance and one exit, a narrow gate at the front that meets a lonely side road stretching 3 miles before it reaches the main highway. Beyond that, just dense woods and silence. No houses, no businesses, no signs of life for miles. Thanks to my seniority, I usually get to choose my shifts and days off. I prefer mornings or evenings, keeping my weekends, or at least Fridays and Saturdays, free. But after a few months at this new contract, we began having trouble keeping guards on the overnight shift, especially on weekends. During the day, we had 3 guards covering all 7 days. Weeknights had 2 guards on overnights, but the weekend overnight shift, from Friday to Sunday, had only 1. I should mention, every guard on every shift is armed. The problem was that no one wanted to stay on the night shift. People kept quitting after only a few weeks, complaining about the isolation or that they just couldn't get comfortable working there. My supervisor eventually came to me and asked if I could help out temporarily until more people were hired, work some overtime covering the weekend overnights. I could have said no. Looking back, I wish I had. But at the time, I needed the extra cash. I was preparing to move into a new apartment, and the money would help. So I agreed. The first 2 weekends went by without issue. Nothing strange, nothing unusual. But what happened on the 3rd weekend made me regret that decision for good. It was a Saturday night around 2 a.m. A thunderstorm raged outside. Heavy rain, wind howling against the windows, thunder rolling across the empty lot. I was sitting alone in the camera control room on the top floor. The room had a wide window overlooking the rear parking lot and 3 large monitors displaying live CCTV feeds from around the building, including the few exterior cameras by the lot and the main gate. Like most nights, I had the lights off, watching movies I'd downloaded on my phone while playing games on my old Game Boy to pass the time. After sitting for hours, I got up to stretch my legs. I was feeling drowsy and thought about walking down the hall to grab an energy drink from the vending machine. As I paced around the control room, I stopped at the window, pulling the blinds slightly to peek outside. The storm was tearing through the lot. Wind tossing debris, sheets of rain hammering the asphalt. I was about to turn away when a sudden flash of lightning illuminated the tree line beyond the fence, and I froze. Something moved. I saw a dark figure dart from one tree to another, about 20 feet apart. I stayed still, eyes fixed on the spot, waiting for another flash to confirm what I'd seen. After a few seconds, another bolt lit the sky, but this time, the space was empty. The tree stood alone, slick with rain. I exhaled slowly, convincing myself I was just tired. Probably my eyes playing tricks. I left the window, walked down the hall, and got that energy drink. I downed it before I even got back to the control room, maybe a 5-minute round trip. When I returned, one of the camera feeds had gone out. The monitor showing the back parking lot, the same area outside the window, was black. I looked out the blinds again and spotted the camera dangling from its mount, wires twisting in the wind. I figured the storm had knocked it loose. I logged it in my nightly report and went back to my usual routine. A few minutes later, as I was watching a movie, I heard the sharp beep of the access control system, someone entering a code on one of the building S keypads. My eyes shot to the main screen. The log showed the rear door. The one by the back lot had just been accessed. My stomach dropped. Someone was outside. Someone had the access code. Whoever it was, they'd entered successfully. The system showed the green light. That made no sense. If a maintenance worker or contractor was scheduled, we would have received a memo, and I knew for a fact no other guard was on shift. I picked up the desk phone to call the police, but the line was dead. I grabbed my cell. No signal. Probably the storm. I decided to move through the hallway, hoping to catch a signal somewhere near the stairwell. I stepped out of the control room, phone in hand, walking quickly toward the service stairs. Then, everything went dark. The power cut out completely. My first instinct was to head for the lobby and make a break for my truck. I was already close to the stairwell, so I slipped inside. It was pitch black, but I figured that worked in my favor. I moved quietly, careful not to make noise. Whoever cut the power was probably in the basement near the generator room, which unfortunately was only one level below the lobby, not far from the very stairs I was using. I had made it to the fourth-floor landing when I heard a door creak open below me. I froze. Heavy footsteps began to ascend the stairs, slow but deliberate. I was armed, yes, but training doesn't prepare you for this kind of terror. I didn't want to shoot anyone unless I had no choice. My mind was racing. Then an idea. Retreat. I turned and started moving back up toward the 6th floor, as quietly as I could. At the top of the stairwell, there was a small ladder leading to a maintenance hatch that opened onto the roof. I decided to climb up and hide just below the hatch in total darkness until I could figure out my next move. But as I turned, my gun bumped against the railing, clang. The footsteps below stopped. Then, suddenly, they ran charging up the stairs. I sprinted upward, taking the steps 2 at a time. Near the top, just before the door to the 6th floor, I slammed it open hard, letting it echo, then released it so it would close loudly behind me, a distraction. While the sound rang out, I kept running to the ladder and climbed up, pressing myself into the shadows. Seconds later, the door below burst open. Whoever it was ran into the hallway without glancing up, the heavy door slamming shut again. That was my chance. I dropped from the ladder, only about 10 feet, landing hard but upright. I bolted down the stairs. Behind me, I heard the door reopen and the footsteps thunder after me. I don't know how, but I managed to stay a full flight ahead all the way down. When I hit the lobby, I heard a crash, followed by a sharp cry of pain. Maybe he'd fallen. I wasn't going to check. I burst through the lobby doors, sprinting into the storm. My truck was close. I hit the fob, engine roaring to life, and dove inside just as I saw him, all in black, face hidden under a mask and hood, charging out of the building toward me. I slammed the truck into drive and tore out of the lot, tires screaming on wet pavement. By the time I reached the main road, my phone signal returned. I called the police immediately. They arrived about 15 minutes later, and I followed them back to the site. I told them everything. We searched the entire building and the woods around it, but found nothing. Then came the part that still chills me. Down in the stairwell, where I'd heard him fall, the police found something he'd dropped, a fully loaded, unregistered semi-automatic handgun. No one ever figured out who he was or why he'd broken in. There was nothing particularly special about that building, just another government facility. Whatever the reason, I'm grateful I made it out that night. This happened just a few nights ago. My very first shift as a mobile security guard in training. Before I go any further, let me clarify. A mobile guard isn't stationed in one spot. We drive from site to site wherever the clients need security checks. This was in the Greater Toronto area. But the incident I am about to tell you about happened at a pharmacy and medical clinic in Mississauga. It was my first night, and my supervisor seemed like a decent guy, patient, calm, and showing me the ropes. How to do patrols, file reports, disarm alarms, that sort of thing. Usually, if an alarm goes off, dispatch radios us to check it out. But that night, we were just doing a routine perimeter patrol. There was no alarm call. We arrived around 1:15 a.m. to make sure everything looked normal. Only, it didn't. The underground parking gate was wide open. The front door smashed in. My supervisor froze. What the hell? If someone broke in, the alarm should have gone off. It was my first time at the site, and this was apparently a new contract for our company. I had no idea what to expect. Still, we stepped inside carefully. Then he pointed. "Look at the elevator." I followed his gaze. The elevator was moving on its own, from the basement to the first floor, then the second, the third, and it stopped at the fourth, the very top. "Someone's in there," my supervisor muttered, pulling out his baton. My stomach dropped. My breathing went shallow. I remember thinking, I hate this job. I don't want to be here. But we stepped into the elevator anyway and hit the button for the top floor. As it started climbing, my mind was racing. What if the doors opened and someone was standing right there? What if they charged us before we could react? The elevator chimed. The doors slid open. Darkness, no movement, no sound. We turned on our flashlights and started clearing the floor, room by room. My supervisor stayed close, tension in his voice. "Stick with me," he whispered, "and get ready. If someone's here, we're taking him down." But the floor was empty, completely still. Then, footsteps. Below us, descending the stairwell. We rushed toward the stairwell door, ready to chase whoever it was. But the footsteps stopped. Dead silence. All we could hear was our own breathing. Then my supervisor keyed his radio. "A4 to C25, go ahead. Dispatch, we need immediate backup. Someone's in the building with us, possibly armed. They're downstairs, maybe waiting to ambush us." Dispatch came back instantly, calm but firm. "A4, hold position. Do not engage. Back up en route." My supervisor started to panic, which didn't help. He was only a few years older than me, but at that moment he looked terrified. "Bro," I said quietly, trying to steady my voice. "Don't worry. Backup's coming soon." Running wasn't an option. The suspect was on the ground floor. He could have been anywhere. If we used the elevator, the noise would give us away. He could be standing right there, waiting, or he could come up the stairs and take us by surprise. So we waited. 15 minutes later, the silence broke. The front door creaked open, followed by a man's voice echoing through the building. "Security!" It was our senior supervisor. My supervisor grabbed his radio. "We're upstairs, sir. Be careful, someone's downstairs." A few minutes later, the senior supervisor joined us on the top floor. Together, we swept the entire building, floor by floor. Nothing. Until, while checking the third floor, we heard it, the sound of running footsteps echoing from below. The front door slammed shut. We bolted downstairs, but whoever it was had already vanished into the night. No broken windows, no open exits, no trace. We were left standing there, hearts pounding, staring at the empty lobby, the same lobby that had somehow unlocked itself. We searched every hallway, every bathroom, every corner. Nothing. To this day, I don't know if someone was hiding in there with us, or if that building had something else inside it. But one thing's for sure. It was the most terrifying night of my life. And this weekend, I have to go back. Same clinic, same shift. But this time, I'll be alone.